So we are all set to go.
All right. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us tonight for our second webinar, Fat Wallet, the Fundamentals of Building and Managing Wealth. I am your host, Ibrahim Saleh. I will spare you a little introduction because you're going to hear it again in a pre-recorded session that I had with one of our guest speakers, the first guest speaker of this webinars, Tricia Stitzel, the owner of Extreme Result Solutions. I had set up some expectations in our first webinar that you will not only hear my voice, but you will hear from guest speakers, experts in different fields, to help us understand the fundamentals of building wealth and managing that. With that, I will actually play the pre-recorded. We'll have about 3 minutes after the session is done, where I will just to go over what will be covered in the next sessions, and also about kind of our link, our form, so you can submit your questions and feedback to the sessions. So let's start our session with Tricia Stitzel. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. It is the second webinar of Fat Wallet, the Fundamentals of Building and Managing Wealth. Happy to kind of host tonight's program, and I have a surprise for you, a very dear and near guest speaker that will share the wisdom of how to save money. I want to thank you for joining. This is our second webinar, sponsored by the Multicultural Center Financial Service Center. Our mission for this program is really help you and help others to be the most educated, well-informed, and successful group. As I promised in the last webinar, I mentioned that it's not going to be just me speaking, but we will have guest speakers who are specialized experts in their field, so they can share with you tips and resources to help us be more of a gain that financial independence. Today, we're talking about mental readiness. Last time we talked a little bit about what is the program about and all the different topics, but I thought that without having the right mindset, we're not going to make any gains. So have a guest speaker today that will really speak to your mind. She's specialized in working with the mind. I'm proud to introduce our guest speaker, Tricia Stitzel. My good friend, known Tricia for about 3 years now. She's a business coach and entrepreneur. She is the co-owner of Results Extreme Business Solutions. She's been a business owner and a coach for about 12 years, owning multiple businesses at the same time as well. And she, being a business owner and being a coach, is really a complement to each other because she understands the challenges, the struggles of today's entrepreneurship, specifically with what women and small business owners face. She has a passion for helping business owners, and you can see that in her podcast and in her work as well. She actually the host of Serving the Community podcast and a co-host of Bridge the Gap as well. Tricia, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate you making the time for us to chat. I cannot hear you, Tricia.
Oh, goodness. That's because I'm here now. Ibrahim, thank you so much for inviting me to come talk on this subject. You know, it's something that I'm super passionate about, which I'm sure the reason why you reached out to talk with me about mindset. And it really is an important thing, not only in business and in your personal life, but with your finances as well. You know, so many of us get stuck in a place where we don't have a good relationship with money. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm very excited.
Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted just to share with everyone the statistics, some of the statistics just to set the scene about what we're talking about, what we're facing as a community as well. So this is a saving statistics that was published at the end of 2020. It kind of shows the average household saving in America. by age group, by family situation as well. And it basically says that average household saving in America is about $17,000. And you can see at early ages, no saving or very minimal. And as kind of people grow older, they understand the fundamental and the importance of savings as well. In terms of some hard statistics, there is about $3.9 trillion in personal savings. However, 69% of adults American have only less than about $1,000 in their saving accounts. The median balance of retirement accounts, and we'll talk a little bit more about retirement, is about $65,000. And the retirement saving is now projected to have a deficit of about 4.3 trillion. And when you dissect the data a little bit down into demographics, you find that the African American household have only about $29,000 saved up for retirement. And this is a saving situation. So we're looking at about $3.9 trillion in personal saving. When you look at the debt side, it's an astonishing number. So from a home mortgage, it's about $10.4 trillion. Auto loans is about 1.3. Student loans is about $1.6 trillion. The average student loan in 2020 was $38,000. And the credit card debt stands at $820 billion as of the end of 2020. So what is this picture is telling us is we rely more on debt versus actually our personal savings. And that's why a lot of us struggle, live a paycheck by paycheck, because we cannot get ahead. And that's why we're here. We want to learn how to basically get ahead. Some of the saving hurdles that was identified by researchers. One is people don't have a budget. We don't have the financial knowledge. There is a huge amount of debt, and you can see that in the numbers that we spoke about. The nature of overspending, and you hear about the overspending in retail therapy, people spending. And the last one is the lack of goals in your mind. Which why we have Trisha today, because she's specialized in actually working with the mind. So Trisha, I want to just kind of ask you just a few questions to keep the conversation. One is financials and emotional behaviors. To what extent our financial and emotional behaviors are linked?
You know, Ibrahim, that's a very interesting question, and they are absolutely linked. And I'd like to talk about two different things. One of them is going to be the Oz principle, and I'll give you some more information about that. And then the other one is the law of self-control. And each of these concepts really digs deep into why we do the things that we do, which is very interesting. So from the Oz principle, it's actually a book that's written by Connor Smith and Hickman. It defines accountability as a personal choice to rise above one's circumstances and demonstrate the ownership necessary for achieving desired results. Meaning, see it, own it, solve it, do it. So I'd like for everyone to close your eyes. I promise this is not a strange exercise, but it's going to be a good exercise. So I want you to picture a blank piece of paper with a line horizontally directly in the middle of it. So you're going to have a blank space at the top of the line and a blank space at the bottom of the line. The picture that I want you to draw below this line is the way we see ourselves on a regular basis when we think about money. We're going to ignore it or deny it. We're going to say, it's not my problem. We're going to bury our heads. We're going to point the finger at someone else. We're going to cover our tail. We might wait and see. And there might be some confusion, or you're waiting for someone to tell you what to do next. And those are all of the things that are going through your mind below the line. And then as you look above the line, I want you to picture this beautiful stair step up to the top of wherever it is that you want to go. And I want you to see it. I want you to own it. I want you to solve it. And I want you to do it. So when you open your eyes, what I really want you to picture is where do you want to take your journey with money? Do you want to live below the line with all of the excuses, the finger pointing, and the blame on someone else and continue to carry that bad relationship with money? Or do you want to be above the line and actually see it, own it, solve it, or do it? So that concept's a little more complicated than the law of self-control. And here's the next picture that I want you to see. It's a mountain, and we're going to start at the bottom of the mountain. And at the bottom of the mountain is everything that we tell ourselves. It's our self-talk. It's the way we think about money. It's the relationship that we think that we have about money. And if we think that we have a bad relationship, the next step up that mountain is going to be the belief or the feeling that we have about money. So our self-talk, the things that we think, become our beliefs and our feelings. We actually teach our brains that these things are true, or we believe them to be true. And from those beliefs come our actions. And as we think about money, and we have that self-talk, I don't have a good relationship with money, I don't know how to save, then we're really going to believe that. It makes our brains, because we say it over and over and over again internally, we believe that we can't save money. So guess what we do when we get to the next part of the mountain in our actions? We don't save money. And what is the result, which is the top of the mountain? We have no money. So it all starts with the self-talk. It all starts with the way you think about money. So those actions drive your beliefs and feelings, which drive your actions, which drive your results. What if instead of saying, I don't know how to save money, you say, I know how to save money, and I believe that I know how to save money. That action then takes me to saving money, which results in a fat wallet. That's what we all want, right? So if we continue to tell ourselves that we have a bad relationship with money, then we will.
That's amazing. So there are some psychological reasons why people don't prioritize savings. You kind of mentioned the change in the mindset and the relationship with the money, but what are other psychological reasons that you believe that kind of limit us or let us be more comfortable with actually spending rather than saving?
So let's talk about self-limiting beliefs. We all have them. You may not have heard the term before, but we have those. So self-limiting belief prevents us from achieving success, whether it's through saving money, whether it's through our career, our lives, our relationships with other people. There are negative self-perceptions that live in our conscious and our subconscious, rooted from, get this, past experiences, comments by other people whom you spend time with, your values and beliefs, or the values and beliefs of your family and friends, and even messages on the media. All of that plays a role in a self-limiting belief. So here's my example. And I think I shared this with you the other day, Ibrahim. Most of my life, I had a terrible relationship with money. I had great relationships with people, but I had a terrible relationship with money. And I never understood why. I was always afraid to make money and put money away. Anytime I had money, I spent it. Does this sound familiar? Probably does to a lot of people who are listening. And it took a very long time and some really deep thinking on, where does this come from? Well, as a child, here's what I discovered as I worked through my memories. As a child, we had a jar. It was just, a mayonnaise jar or something a little bit bigger than that. It didn't have a wrapper on it, so you could always see how much change was in the jar. And when it was time to go to the grocery store, which was not really the grocery store, but the convenience store, to buy bread and milk, we counted quarters out of that jar because that's what we had. We didn't have anything else, right? That was the money that we had saved so that we could eat. And, did we have bologna sandwiches and milk? Yeah, a lot. It was really great when we had peanut butter and jelly, right? But for my entire adult life, I thought that any money that I had needed to be spent. I never saved money. I wasn't taught how to save money because my family didn't teach me that. And so I think that's important too. And you even touched on some statistics earlier, Ibrahim, about generational, right? And who's saving and who's not. And I feel like generationally, the older generations really, it was a priority for them to save. And then we have some generations like mine, I'm kind of in the middle, right? Where we didn't save because our parents may or may not have saved, right? Or they may have had to spend their money because of whatever the situation was. So finding a way to go beyond those self-limiting beliefs is very important, but you can't get there until you know what they are. And that's really reflecting on what are the negative self-perceptions that you have in your subconscious and your conscious. What are those past experiences? What are the comments that you get from other people in your life, or even the values and beliefs of your family? All of this comes into play when we're talking about self-limiting beliefs, and they can be very destructive. We need to be able to identify those. That's really important when we talk about relationships with money.
So you're saying that we really have to evaluate how we behave, how we believe money represents for us.
Absolutely.
So,
because if it represents you have to count quarters to get the bread and milk for dinner, right? How does that kind of rear its head now that you're a grown-up, right? Well, those quarters and those pennies sit in a jar. They don't sit in the bank, right? And you have access to them. So you're going to use those to buy the things that you need right now, right? And you're not thinking about the future.
Is there a feeling of overcompensating for, because you can see some, and I've met some that actually, and the statistics speaks about that as well, where they really have a good paycheck and they have good money. But when you look at their personal finances, it's mind-boggling that they're still in debt. Are they overcompensating for that shortage of fund at their early age by overspending? Is there?
Absolutely. I was in that same place too, right? This all stemmed from the money we spend. So you talked about there being $820 billion worth of credit card debt out there, right? In 2020. That is mind-boggling. But let me tell you this story. Maybe a little embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you this true story. So my husband and I were both in the military. Military salary is not very much, but it's certainly better than, working at the local market in our hometowns, which is why both of us left for the military in the first place. When we got out of the military, we got great jobs with a IT firm and bumped our salary by 2 times, mind you. We were living like nobody's business. And I tell you, we racked up so much debt. It was unimaginable looking back. We were spending every penny that we had. We were putting all kinds of things on credit cards. Let me tell you, here's the embarrassing part of the story. And don't tell Dennis that I threw him under the bus on this show. He bought a car with a check from his credit card. This is how bad it was. Right? Because we were overcompensating for not having. We didn't have when either one of us growing up, we didn't have. So now we have, and we're spending it on everything. And then what do you end up to show for it? Well, you got a whole bunch of people calling you on the phone trying to collect debt, right? It's a terrible place to be. Nobody wants to be in that place. And if you're there, I would say you just need to reflect on, number one, how did you get there? Why do you have a bad relationship with your money, right? And who can help? And even, listening to these podcasts, I think are really important, but that's my story, right? I had to do a lot of bad things to figure out that it's the wrong way. But it all goes back to those self-limiting beliefs. It's the way I was raised. It's what I saw as a young person. I just never realized it. It's
all subconscious.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so saving, is there, what I would say, is saving really linked to the ability to save? So you talked about self-limiting belief. We give an example of people who actually made a lot of money, but didn't save and they actually spend. So is it linked? Because I hear people say, well, I don't have enough to save. So is there a linkage there?
Absolutely. I'm going to dive into a mindset now, right? We gave that little secret away earlier in the show, and mindset's huge. So I'd like for you to think about two. So this time I'm going to ask you to divide the paper vertically, right? And on the left-hand side of that paper, as you visualize it, is going to be a growth mindset. And on the right-hand side of that paper is going to be a fixed mindset. And I'm going to have you put a color to it. The left side is green for growth, and the right side is red for fixed. So as I describe the things of a growth mindset, they may or may not be familiar to you, but you can learn anything that you want to. When you're frustrated, you can persevere. You want to challenge yourself. On the opposite side, when I have a fixed mindset in that red space, I'm either good at it or not. When I'm frustrated, I give up. And I don't like to be challenged. As you can see, Ibrahim, they're very opposite from each other, right? If I look at money with a growth mindset and I say, I can learn anything that I want to. When I fail, I learn. Tell me I try hard. If I succeed, I'm inspired. My effort and attitude determine everything. You can do anything you put your mind to. You probably heard that as a young child. It's true. It is not just something that we tell our children, right? If you go back to that fixed mindset on the right side, which is red, if you succeed, I feel threatened. My abilities determine everything. Whereas the opposite of that is my effort and attitude determine everything. So if I'm living in that fixed mindset, there's no room for growth. You have just decided it is what it is. I have a bad relationship with money. I have credit card debt. The people are calling me on the phone. I don't know how I'm going to pay this month's rent. All of those things are a fixed mindset. If you really want to get yourself into a better position financially, you've got to have that growth mindset. You can learn anything that you want. When you're frustrated, persevere. Challenge yourself. When you fail, you learn. If you succeed, I'm inspired by that. And my effort and attitude determine everything.
Yeah. And you're in control. So I think like you're saying, the mindset, it's a spiral. You go down the rabbit hole, and I'm repeating the same thing to yourself subconsciously, right? Because you hear about saving, you completely kind of disregard it and say, I don't have it. I have credit card debt. I have car loans. I have mortgage, X, Y, Z. You're finding all the excuses not to think about how to be creative and save. And that's, I think that's great that you're pointing that out, is people need to challenge themselves, be creative, persevere, and make sure that they set that, target in their mind that I am going to be out of this.
Absolutely. And it's okay to fail. We learn from those failures, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So a non-saver, someone that's struggling with the money, can they be a saver?
Short answer, yes. Yes, they absolutely can. So we talked about the Oz principle, right? We talked about the law of self-control, where you really are in control. We talked about mindset. We've talked about all of these things that are really soft skills, right? So far, I haven't given you anything that feels tangible, like you can't touch it, like you can touch money. But here's some things that you can really do. So 6 steps to get rid of those limiting beliefs. And remember, those limiting beliefs come from a long time ago, right? From being in and around your family or something that happened as a child. So number one, you're going to have to identify what that is. And it may take some time. Ask yourself, why don't I have a good relationship with money? So here are the 6 steps to get rid of those limiting beliefs. Write it down, write those negative beliefs. Remember when I talked about the law of self-control, that self-talk leads to beliefs, which leads to your actions and your results. So we want to start at the bottom of that mountain and really figure out, what are your negative beliefs? Write them down. Then you want to determine what the new positive belief is. So we're going to get rid of that negative belief. Let's say the negative belief is, I can't put $5 in my savings account because I'm too far in debt. Write it down. I can't put $5 in savings because I'm too far in debt. And then I want you to take that and draw a line through it. And directly above it, write, I will put $5 in my savings account starting this month or starting tomorrow, whatever that deadline is, right, in your mind, and start doing it. And if you miss a month, it's okay to fail, remember, because we learn from our failures. You have to start somewhere. And Ibrahim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think $5 in savings is more than zero.
Absolutely.
We've got to start somewhere, right? So write down your negative beliefs, replace it with a positive one. Look for the evidence. Here's the thing with the law of self-control. When you have that self-talk that says, I can't, you're going to look for something to make that thought true, which is where that belief comes in, right? So if you continue to tell yourself you can't save money, you'll never save money because you believe now that you can't save money. So you have to change the language that you use with your own self, with your internal self. And remember, when we talked about the conscious and subconscious, right? That's where these self-limiting beliefs come in. If you start to tell yourself positive things, you tell yourself every day, or you even put a note on the refrigerator when you go to the refrigerator, I save money. And it's all about the language. It's not about I can or I will. I save money. You may even put on there, I have $5,000 in the bank. It may not be true right now, but it will be. Use present tense language with those goals. Think of the worst case scenario and how you're going to overcome it. And then you're going to recite those affirmations, right? I have $5,000 in the bank. I do save money. I have saved money. Use those positive affirmations with yourself, and it will give you a better relationship with your money. So here's what I have to leave you with. And I don't know if you're going to ask me or not, Ibrahim, but I have some activities here, or actions, leaving this talk. I'm going to challenge each and every one of you who is listening to this right now. Number one, Ibrahim, thank you for having me on the show. I think this is an amazing topic. We all need this education, no matter where we are. And here's the challenge. I want you to go find a mentor. Find someone that you look up to. Find someone that saves money, that puts money away, that you really find inspirational, that you would like to be like them. Because here's the thing, the 5 people you spend the most time with, you become the average of. So go hang around with those people that you're inspired by that are saving money. Find a mentor. That's number one. And number 2, get educated. And not just here. This is a great place to start. Ibrahim, you're doing an amazing job here supporting the Multicultural Center and bringing this education to people. But there's so many other resources out there. Go get educated, because you can have a beautiful relationship with money.
I would really appreciate it. I mean, I really like the tangible actions, because, people have a span of learning, and we can spend hours, but, the 1 or 2 things at the end where you actually explain the actions to us, those are really the most useful. Truly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for making time for me. I know your calendar is crazy, but I appreciate that you're being here. Thank you so much, Trish.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, everyone. That was Trisha Stitzel, And I just wanted to kind of recap 3 or 4 things to just end that webinar with. First, those are kind of my reflections. Actually, this is I recorded the webinar with Trisha, and I didn't actually listen to it. I intended to just listen with you all to kind of capture my learnings and see how, how fresh those ideas and how can I use it. So some of my reflections are, saving is a personal choice. You are making the choice for yourself. As Trisha said, see it, own it, solve it, and do it. So there are all tangible actions that you need to take. And remember, those are personal choices. Number 2 is know and change your self-limiting beliefs. So the first one is just reflect, understand, reflect upon your own beliefs and know what those beliefs are, but work hardly to actually change those to positive, more positive beliefs. The third is, as you witness, Trisha used some visualization in her presentation. The exercises of closing your eyes and actually visualizing things. You should do the same with saving money as well. You need to visualize your future with the ability or the mindset of a growth mindset, not a limiting mindset. So you want to see where you want to be. You will need to visualize that and change that mindset into a growth mindset. And the last is asking for help, finding a mentor. Those are great ideas and great thoughts for you to capture, and for me personally as well. With that, just a reminder that our next session will be on October the 5th, 8:30. I am going to have a form that will be on the MCC website tomorrow. If you go to the MCC forms, you will see MCC Financial Service Center, and you will have a form where you can actually give us some feedback, submit your questions, any questions you have. I think you have a limit of about 4 questions. And as we mentioned, that we will have specific session to answer your questions. So mark your calendar, October the 5th, 8:30. And I'll leave you with the last, with the closing quote from Roosevelt: "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." Thank you all for joining us. Good night.